Welcome to today's Clarity Chat. We extend our heartfelt gratitude for being with us in over 115 sessions, made possible by your support and engagement. Management wise, IT is the most complex function. Four reasons why. One, IT managers have to grapple with fast evolving technology landscape to address their specific industry's processes. And these processes span across the entire organization. Number two, IT management is a nascent function, merely 30 to 40 years old. Number three, technology talent is asymmetric. Over 90% of the technology talent is on the supplier side. And number four, the Hotel California syndrome. You can get into any technology, but you can't come out of it. Therefore, the decisions have to be careful, yet are complex with the context of all the above factors. The intense marketing noise and pricing tactics makes decision making more difficult. Clarity Chat helps you make sense of IT management by bringing live, interactive interviews with esteemed business and IT leaders. The discussions guide you with invaluable insights into technology and leadership. The Clarity Chat sessions have seen 60 plus guests and not only CIOs. They share their knowledge, life experiences, and insights with all of you. We've also conducted 33 freewheeling Ask Me Anything sessions. Many of these delved into focused but diverse topics such as change management and program management. Clarity Chat is tech savvy and virtual. I and my guests have attended these from diverse places, and our audience attends it from across the globe. Clarity Chat is all about you, our audience. We work hard to enrich your 1 hour with technology, leadership, and insights. We listen to you. We run an annual feedback process via surveys and focus groups. Not that we are able to do everything you tell us, but we calibrate to our best ability. Throughout our journey, we have celebrated milestones, making each occasion special with special guests, panel discussions, and thematic explorations. Thank you for being part of our incredible journey. Welcome to today's Clarity Chat.
Hey, hello, good afternoon, good morning, depending on which part of the world you are from. Baroda. I'm in Baroda right now and attending this Clarity Chat from here. So welcome to the 36th edition of Ask Me Anything Clarity Chat, and this is the 123rd episode of Clarity Chat. Well, during our guest sessions, we get more questions than can be answered. My team diligently creates a backlog of these questions, and these are picked up during once in a while AMA sessions. We had one of them 15 days back, and we could not cover the entire backlog because, yes, we give priority to the live questions, and there were just too many live questions. So we decided to do another AMA session to clear our backlog. But if there are too many live questions even today, we may have to carry our backlog. But nevertheless, I mean, please go ahead, ask questions. We've got some powerful content coming your way. My team does a bit of research to get you the right answers that you expect out of Clarity Chat. So briefly, we will discuss the optimal organization model for digital delivery, prioritizing technology investments, what kind of frameworks should you use, and how flexible should we keep our manpower, and what is the right project delivery model. So meanwhile, do ask any questions on any topics related to IT management, leadership, or any chronic issues you have in your mind, any organizational issues, organizational dynamics, aka politics issues, that are preventing any technology initiatives from driving ROI, or any issues that your clients may have, while executing their programs and all. I'm sure you will find some answers here, or at least some direction here. So you will get honest answers, case studies, practical approaches, and thought processes. Because Clarity Chat is all about experiences and no gyan. Before we go forward, I want to acknowledge our audience. We have CXOs, founders, IT managers, and seasoned technology industry leaders in our audience. All of us know that technology is necessary but not sufficient to drive business performance. The guests on Clarity Chat, as well as myself, we have built the bridge between necessary and sufficient with the art of managing technologies. And Clarity Chat is building that bridge you and uh, between you and our learnings. So thank you for joining us for the last 120 episodes and encouraging us with your interactions and questions. So let us see who we have here. May I request all our audience to share their name and where you're joining from in the comment box of LinkedIn or YouTube. Guys, make your presence felt, else it feels like a little alone here, sitting in front of the window and just a screen in front of me. Hey, thanks, Karthik, for making your presence felt already. Uh, thank you, Karthik. And yeah, anybody else, please go ahead and share your name and where you're joining from. Okay. I can see Satya. Hey, Sats, good morning. And I can't thank you enough for joining early morning. Even if you're an early morning person, still I have to thank you, because I can't imagine myself getting up at like 6:30 in the morning and attending a knowledge session. So thank you so much. Hey, thanks, Nitin, for joining us. And congratulations on your recent success. Looking forward to hear more about you sometimes. More about it sometimes. Okay. And we have Karthik. He says he's from Bangalore. Hey, thanks, Karthik, for joining. Okay. So let's begin the session. So our first question that we have, it was from Nitin last time around. I don't remember which Clarity Chat, but and Nitin is here. Great, Nitin. So, what should be the organization model for digital delivery? I think, as we always say that IT is one of the fastest growing fields of management, and what is relevant today is not relevant tomorrow. I experienced it firsthand when I took over as CIO of Tata Motors. I did my first restructuring of IT within 2 years. Created what we called as a target operating model. Well, even before that, there was a first restructuring, which was to just kind of like get the hygiene stuff going, map all the uncovered management areas. There were plants which were not represented by IT, and there were functions which went unrepresented. So just to reorganizing the responsibilities, and it landed actually more responsibility in the hands of people. And then we took another structured exercise a few years later, where we went into a process driven organization, because we had multiple areas, actually three areas in particular: ERP, infrastructure, and CRM, with three distinct partner delivery models. But then there was no harmonization of KPIs, or there was no common model of governance or contract management, anything. So we first actually went into a process driven mode, and applied these processes uniformly across, and that sort of resulted in a good amount of uniformity, and common reporting, some sort of internal benchmarking between teams in terms of service management, project management. um, and that was our first effort at defining a proper organization structure. Well, as it happens, every model has its own um, good things and bad things. The good things resulted quickly. The bad things started showing up a little later, which was more bureaucracy. And therefore then we sat down again, took a few senior people from the staff into a huddle offsite, and defined what at that time was being touted as a bimodal organization structure, which is to have some sort of an autonomous operations mode of IT, with certain things centralized and certain things decentralized, and that releasing a lot more time for IT leaders to focus on strategy and future issues. That worked very well, and I would say it is still is there in some form or the other. But then the next thing that happened was, we actually took top 25 leaders from the organization on a digital transformation sort of workshop, um, brainstorming, and that created a lot of ownership within business, and now business leaders were owning IT, and therefore the model further evolved to have embedded technology success roles within the business. So why I'm telling you the story? The story is because uh, at any point in time, there's a certain maturity in your organization, which demands a certain type of model. Okay, so if you're sort of just starting out on the digital transformation journey, probably the need of the hour may be, having KPIs, driving more outcome driven delivery, and therefore, like, setting up some sort of scorecards, aligning your different technology functions, etc. But then, if you're far ahead in your journey, where the businesses are now, like, they are keen to own the outcomes, I think you may need a different model. But it is always an evolution. There's never, like, a magic wand that, whoa, some big four comes and gives you a operating model, and you just restructure your IT operations into that, and then that gets done for you. No, it doesn't happen that way. However, let me, having said that, let us also look at, regardless of what stage you are in, what is sort of the target state, and what are the principles for the target state in any organization that you should be gunning for. Okay, so I would say that, in the eventual end state, it is the leaders, the business leaders, who basically drive transformation through technology. Like any other thing, there can be a transformation through market interventions. You're trying to get outcomes through different market interventions. You may be driving outcomes through new partner strategies. You may be targeting outcomes either through digital channels, or, basically squeezing the efficiency from your operations using different digital initiatives. So it should not be technology function who should be selling, efficiency, productivity, revenues to you. You have to, as a business leader, own it. If so, that's like one basic principle that we have. Now, the second, the second principle should be, then what's the role of IT? Okay, if business is providing if business is owning the outcomes, then I would say that look at yourself, compare yourself with other functions, other, let's say, support functions like HR, finance, and all. Eventually today, any good business leader, they have to own their people, right? They have to make sure that, stuff like, for example, talent retention, promoting the right talent, mm, the right compensation, hiring the best talent from the market. A lot of these are HR, outcomes, but a good leader always owns these. Like, I used to own my own HR outcomes. I would not say the HR processes. The HR processes were owned by HR, but the outcomes I own, getting the best talent from the market, retaining my top performers, paying them well, and in the process, I would have detailed, sometimes good, sometimes heated discussions with my HR because I owned them. Now think about a business leader doing something similar with, and then what is the role of IT? So two, three things come out if you see it with respect to that. Maybe another one example I can give you is finance, right? So it's the job of the finance function is to ensure financial discipline, is to, ensure the fiscal, what you call, let's say, you are not selling at a loss, you're not keeping too many inventories, etc. So they basically manage through a scorecard, right? and they are much more like a controlling function instead of telling you how to use money, right? Or how to cost your products, or how to price your products. No, they don't get into that. It's like the business leaders who do the product pricing based on the market scenarios, pricing, promotions, etc. Is the business leaders who are responsible for gross margins and net margins. Is the business leaders who own their inventories, etc., etc. And finance provides the underpinning, the capital allocation, the relationships with the banks, getting, the debt equity structures of the company, etc. So they play at a much more, you can say, at a much more higher level than trying to tell every business leader how to manage their money, right? In Now think about IT. Okay, so IT has to do something similar, which is it has to become a facilitator. If the business leaders are owning outcomes, then you shouldn't get insecure that what do I do now? No, it's your job now to facilitate those outcomes. That means you must have the platforms, right? So your job is to make sure that they have the right technology platforms, they have the right, you can say, partner relationships in place, which can do stuff for them. You bring in the best practices from the market, and socialize with them. uh, you always keep ahead in terms of the new technologies, and make sure that before a big demand comes from the businesses, you have already done your POCs, and you've already like kept things ready for them to bring it, I mean, in time before they bring it to you. Okay. So if that happens, then how does the magic happen from technology, right? And how does that organization model work? So I can share some trends with you based on, well, I can say that my CIO roles were inadequate to tell you about these, so I had to do a bit of studying around here, talking to a few people on, like, on how this is evolving, going back to my organizations, previous organizations, as to how they have evolved. Okay, so here are the few trends for you, and then we'll go into some examples as well. So the first trend is that it's now actually a product and outcome centric teams. Okay, so earlier there used to be a differentiation between services and the projects. You do a project, you transition it to the services, probably some outsourced team out there, and then you get going. But it is actually more moving towards agile product development and a continuous product development kind of scenario, where you have these hybrid teams between business and, so the business takes ownership of the product and outcomes, and you have these technology team members associated on that product, and you basically run sprints and keep evolving that product, and even the feedback that is coming to you from operations, from support, etc. You keep building that and keep prioritizing your product. So it's a continuous product development with the product and outcome centric teams. The second is, we just talked about it. It is technology ownership by IT and product ownership by business. So every piece of technology that is delivering an outcome there, think about it as a product. Okay, and that gets owned by the business, and executed and supported by IT team, but the whole team works together. Okay, but from an ownership point of view, which platforms to use, what products to be developed, let business decide that. What platforms to be developed, what platforms to develop it on, is a primary decision by IT. So let's take an example. Okay, so you want to enable your channel staff with mobile technologies, right? So that whenever they go, It's a bit passe. I think everybody has it nowadays, but still, let's look at that. Or let's say you want to, let's take a fresh example. Okay, so your channel staff is already enabled with mobile devices, and now you want to augment their effectiveness by bringing in, let's say, a Gen AI driven support tool where they can answer the questions of the of the end customers. They can check interoperability, etc., etc. They can do a lot of those stuff, right? So now this requirement, this becomes sort of a product. Okay, a Gen AI knowledge support, chat based knowledge support for my channel partners. Now this product is owned in terms of defining the requirements, defining the outcomes, the tag times, etc. This is owned by a product owner, product manager, a product owner in the business, and then you form a team, and this team then has, let's say, your architect, maybe some partner, who's going to work on this, and you start developing an MVP first, which is to a quick and dirty thing, whether it works or not, and then you start getting feedback from your pilot set of users, and you start improvising it, reach a certain critical level where you say that okay, now it will have some acceptability, and then launch it, right? And the whole thing continues. You don't take it as a project that there's a start date and finish date. You launch it as soon as you can, and then you continue improvising it, because as the business managers and as your channel partners, they experience it, they will continue coming up with new requirements, and you have this product in delivering those. Okay. um, in the same vein, what we are seeing is a platform economy. So if you look at, for example, Uber is a platform where which is connecting people who require transport with people who own cars, right? If you look at Airbnb, it's a platform which is where the homeowners are there, where the vacationers are there, or people who want short-term rentals, and then and then what these platforms are doing, they are setting the rules. They are setting some sort of pricing structures, commission structures. They are making the whole thing more transparent and more trustworthy. So if you see, one of the biggest jobs of a platform per se is to create trust, right? If you look at Amazon, the same thing, between sellers and buyers, providing that e-commerce, a trusted platform. When you look at, in the most evolved form, technology function should be a similar platform provider. So you have, the technology suppliers, which can be, your product people, like, for example, Microsoft, Amazon, etc. So people who are giving various technology services. You may have development partners, and you have the business teams, and IT provides that platform, which assures security, which assures the right contractual terms and conditions, which assures some sort of simplicity in terms of the number of technology platforms not proliferating too much, and it kind of like keeps an eye on the entire what do you call operations, the technology operations, and make sure that you get the performance, you get the security, you get there are no disputes with your partners, and the business outcomes are realized, and let the business guys own the outcomes. Okay. The one of the other, I would say, I don't know how to put it, but we also see that there are certain things, like, for example, leveraging data. Okay, that's where the businesses are demanding a lot more ownership. um, so I saw that that experts typically, the practitioners typically are on the business side, the experts are typically on the technology function side, IT side, except that one exception of data scientists. And it wasn't actually hard to figure out why, because eventually the purpose of, whatever we are doing in technology is to generate useful data, okay, and drive insights from that data. And that basically drives those improvement cycles or transformation opportunities or insights or new product insights. And I think that is one of the biggest, you can say, anxieties, or one of the biggest vectors of success for our business leaders. And therefore, I have seen that data science is many times a function where they hire the experts, they bring those experts, and then they expect the platforms like data lake and various tools to be provided by IT. Okay, so that's more from a data leveraging data point of view. Now one question, logical question that comes across is that when you have these product based teams which are embedded in different parts of business, right, then uh, one advantage of everybody being part of one function that can be made out to be is that there's enough amount of knowledge sharing happening. Okay, so how do you make sure that knowledge sharing still happens, okay, when you have these product and outcome based teams residing in different parts of business? How does knowledge get created or shared? So that's where uh, typically you have internal forums or COEs, and you create those what do you call horizontal sites, and you create, like, motivators to intranets, discussion forums, etc., etc. But there's an interesting one, which also you would see, when we talk about GCCs, right? So these GCCs are nothing but internally they may also be structured the same way, which is outcome driven and product driven. But just the physical proximity of all these teams, right, into one large center, okay, drives that knowledge sharing. So I saw it firsthand in GE when I was there for 3 years. I used to sit in the digital hub in Bangalore, and this hub was like, what do you call, a rainbow mix of teams from different businesses, different disciplines. But then the amount of internal networking it promoted, just because everybody was in the same place, the number of forums, informal forums that were going on, the number of, like, internal tech talks that were going on, internal success stories being presented in different forums going on, that was amazing. I mean, that kind of a cauldron, the bubbling cauldron, was something which I've seen firsthand. And I would say that while we uh, go for these outcome oriented teams, there is probably a merit in driving, COEs, or innovation hubs, we may call it, innovation hubs, digital hubs, where you bring all of these people working on different business outcomes together and drive knowledge sharing. Okay. So, guys, any thoughts on this? Let me see. I can see some comments coming in here. So, Nitin says squad and SVC is the way forward, diminishing lines. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Nitin, squads and tribes, the new way of designing your organizations. Okay. So, there's one comment from Karthik. So, let me take that. So Karthik says, you say that the whole thing continues. There's no start or end date regarding process enhancements such as Gen AI. Exactly my point, Jagdish sir. It is impossible to complete every potential process that comes along. No organization has the resources for that, so they have to be selective. How does one know what is in a process and how much of it that one needs to be selective in terms of implementing it? So, Karthik, no one knows. But end of the day, what is important? Is the process important for us, or is the outcome important for us? In the old world, the process used to be important. You deliver a project using a proper project management process. There used to be a lot of emphasis on process. I would not say that you de-emphasize the process per se, but you create ownership where the outcome lies. Okay, so let us say if business leader or if a product owner, okay, he or she thinks that there's enough what do you call further improvement or development in the product that is still possible. Okay, and let us say they take the ownership of that outcome, that okay, you know what, I mean, I need to improve, I need to invest so much money into this, and then I will be able to, let's say, take this KPI up by 5%, or improve that KPI down by 10%. As long as you're owning the outcome and you're investing in it, I think it's okay. So we don't need to stand in judgment as IT or leadership. We just need to let people own the outcomes and facilitate them. And I think that's the key message here, that the organization leadership, the technology function, they all become enablers in helping business guys drive the outcomes, and just enable them with the technology partners, experts, teams, etc. Okay. So Sat says, I think I would like to add something. Innovation and collaboration happens only when there is enough enablers for it. Absolutely, Satya, I fully agree with you. Um, I think the job of leaders, and I'm not like saying that the top leaders. I think leaders are there at every level. One of the jobs, or one of the important jobs of leaders, is to be an enabler for creating these cauldrons or creating these melting pots, right? So create forums, create bring teams together, let's say drive some contests, okay, drive some hackathons. I mean, just keep doing something, and you don't have to do everything. Actually, I have seen that you know you have enough ambitious people everywhere who want to do something different, who want to do something beyond the 9 to 5 role and the formal JD which is there. All you need to do is you need to unleash these people. You need to invite ideas. Um, yeah, I mean, if you just tell people that, hey, let's do a hackathon, who are the volunteer, I'm sure you will have 5 hands going up, and let them do it. You just be the guide and mentor for them. You don't need to do everything. As a leader manager, you don't have to do everything yourself. You have to just become the enabler and facilitator, and be that positive energy that when people come to you for ideas, you encourage them to experiment with those ideas. They may sound foolish, but that's okay. We always, one of the themes that we always pick up in Clarity Chat is like the fail fast, the fail fast mindset, or the experimentation mindset. I mean, why should I stand in judgment whether something will work or not? Maybe it will not work, but yeah, there will be, end of the day, when you go that route, it may fail, but it will create a huge amount of learning for everybody. Instead of somebody having a thorn in his heart that Jagdish killed my initiative, I still think it would have been good one. Maybe it was not, but why carry that? Let him learn, instead of me telling him that it won't work, right? Okay, so Nitin, thanks, Jagdish sir. Answer was indeed very comprehensive, and I appreciate the time you took to address it 360 degrees, including your experience examples. We'll listen to the recording again to take notes. Hey, thanks, Nitin. Yeah, I know it's a big day for you. Go out to celebrate, man. Okay. So, wow, I love the discussion. So, Satya says, unless GCC leaders have regular and scheduled meetups, hackathons, informal TED talks, like, the culture of sharing does not happen. Employees typically are wary of sharing information as it possibly might hurt their job. Therefore, simple presence of people around them does not help. Most of conversations devolve into discussions around politics or gossip without a leader driving the culture. Oh, Satya, you have I'm happy you mentioned this point, because this is such an important point. I mean, When I mentioned about the GE example and what I experienced there, um, I just forgot to mention this point, that it has to be part of culture, and the culture is built by leaders. If the leader is like nitpicky, or if the leader does not believe in collaboration, I mean, the whether you have 20 people in one center, whether you're 2000 people in one center, I mean, that sharing will not happen. So I think it's a very, very important element that you picked up, and thanks for that, which is culture, right? And now the physical proximity, having these various forums and all, these can only work when uh, at least the leadership team within that function, or or the culture of the organization is that of collaboration and sharing. A point very well made, um, Satya. Okay, so Karthik is adding to the discussion. So he says, Satyaprakash, yes, enablers need to be categorized into those who are aficionado, evangelists, enthusiasts, and buffs, reluctant acceptors, registers, malicious compliers, just helpless type, and set up different approaches to handle them. Yeah, Karthik, I partially, thanks for that addition to the discussion. I partially picked up on it when I said that, the moment you bring up some idea, whether you bring up the idea or somebody else brings up the idea, the moment you just say, hey, someone who can pick up the idea, it will be that those guys, those aficionado evangelists or enthusiasts and buffs, those are the guys who will raise their hands, and they are the guys who should be a leader's right hand people in driving a culture of collaboration, a culture of experimentation, a culture of sharing and collaboration. You will have different hues of people, and I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, a simpler way to put it is that you have early adopters, you have fence sitters, and you have people who are naysayers. Okay, so three types of people you will always find whenever you bring up a new idea. You will have these guys, a very maybe a 10-20% of the people who will say yes to every idea and who will say, hey, let's experiment. Okay, you will have a majority of people, the middle, about let's say 50 to 60% of the people who are like fence sitters, who will see the early success. If there is an early success, they will kind of jump in. Okay, and they will say, okay, yeah, yeah, now it's worth investing my time in. And then there'll be like those 10-20% of the cynics or naysayers, who will not move, regardless of what you do, right? Who are like, cynics means cynics. Okay, so uh, so you have to actually go for those early adopters or those enthusiasts or evangelists, right? And unleash those people, because those are the guys who will create that success, which will get your fence sitters back into play, and create that transformation. So while we are talking of organization structures for digital transformation, I think one of the things that we're picking up here is the culture for transformation. The culture for transformation is as important as the structure for transformation. So guys, thanks for adding to that discussion. Let's move on. um, I want to be conscious of time. I think just one question took a lot of time, but then thanks Satya, Nitin, and Karthik for adding to that discussion. Let's move on to the next question, which is um, balancing flexible manpower versus specialists. I think I see this as a continuation of that question on how to structure an organization. I think the next question is that, like, what should you be do in house, and what should you be outsourcing. um, so um, let me show you something. Let me bring up, we built actually a slide for this. Okay, yeah. So what you see on the top, the top two tiers and the bottom two tiers, is I wouldn't say it's a very, very a sophisticated way of putting it, but it's just representational. Okay, so what I'm trying to represent here is that if you look at things that you need to own within the organization, okay, so strategy and governance, you have to own yourself, right? The business outcomes, business success, you need to own. Architecture, you need to be on top of, like, the complexity, um, the what do you call, the technical debt and all of that stuff, right? Security and compliance, you can outsource a little, but you need to have internal accountability. So, and finally, commercial, whether it's procurement, or whether it is vendor management, whether it is contract compliance, managing SLAs, etc. All of that has to be internal. So the bottom word there in the green box, in the blue box, is accountability, right? So um, wherever you require the accountability within the organization, I think those are the functions you must have in house. At least at the top level, you must have it in house. Okay, and then there are execution, operations, and support roles which will have that level of flexibility. So the question was about flexibility, right? Or flexible versus specialist. The projects will come and go. The projects will come in different technologies, different functional areas, and you don't want to be, like, laden with a team which is um, uh, you know on a very sustainable basis, an in-house team. So stuff like technical support, project management, even development, let's say security operations, security audits, those are kind of things that you can outsource. Even in commercial, there's a ton of stuff that you can give to internal BPO. Like, for example, your invoice processing or SLA management, etc., etc. Even reporting and all that. But broadly, how I have used the principle of accountability is that number one, accountability has to be internal. So you look at anything around in your organization, any of the functions around in your organization, there has to be an accountability which should roll up internally. And what is that accountability? I mean, how does it practically apply? How it practically applies is, um, I never once I had the organization in place, the way the organization was designed was that nobody in my organization had the liberty to say that somebody outside the organization messed up, right? The responsibility may still lie outside, but the accountability has to remain inside. And that was the principle based on which I modeled my entire organization. Okay, and that is what you see somewhat reflected here. Okay, like, for example, you say that, hey, you know what, we implemented this spare parts optimization software, which was supposed to bring down inventories, which was supposed to improve the availabilities, and which was supposed to what do you call, create a delight for our channel partners in terms of faster response times to the requests and all of that. And it didn't happen. There is no way we can have a response to that question saying that, you know what, the partner didn't deliver this. No, the partner can deliver the technical execution part of it. The business success has to be internal. Either it has to be owned by somebody in the function, okay, who is supposed to do the rest of it after the handover has been done, or it has to be done by somebody in the IT function. So I'm not here looking at, whether these roles are all need to be in IT, but it is that they need to be inside the organization. And the execution related stuff can be outside the organization. I hope that works. Now, again, let me come back to my research here. There is a concept that I got exposed, long back when I was working with Jaguar Land Rover, and they used to follow um, this model or framework called SFIA. Yeah. Vinay, if you can please put in the chat, in the LinkedIn Clarity chat ka jo, that comment box, if you can just put SFIA. SFIA is basically skills for information age. Okay. So what SFIA means is what SFIA does is that it just keeps track of the different domains as they are evolving. The objective is the objective is the the skills required in, let us say, in the organization for maximizing the impact of digital or technology. So the different, I'm not sure if you're able to see the chart very clearly, so I'll just read out those different sections. The first one in orange on the left side is strategy and architecture, then the change and transformation. Below that in pink, and then there is in yellow there is development and implementation. In green there is relationship and engagement. In brown on the right side is delivery and operation, and in blue on the bottom right corner is people and skills. Okay. Now the important one here is the small gray box at the bottom right. We'll post this chart. This is a .org site. It doesn't cost. It's not licensed. It doesn't cost. It has got a general license, but it's a good reference framework for for the skills that you need to have within your organization, either by yourself or with your partners. So what you see different, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here are basically the levels of responsibility. Okay. So I'm reading from the gray box, which says level 1 is follow, level 2 is assist, level 3 apply, level 4 enable, level 5 ensure advise, level 6 initiate influence, level 7 set strategy, inspire mobilize. Right. So in this entire framework, wherever you see 7, okay, that is like the top of the responsibility. That is what I mean by accountability. Like, for example, if I see some of those in 7 is like strategic planning, information systems coordination, information management, innovation, right? Information security, governance, risk management, audit, quality management, uh, consultancy, right? If you look at change and transformation, portfolio management, program management, project management, these are all 7. That means these all should be inside. Okay. Whereas if you see in the change analysis, there's nothing in 7, which is business situation analysis, feasibility assessment, requirement definition and management, etc., etc. Right. But then if you go further below that, I'm on the pink or the purple one. Business process improvement, organization capability development, organization design and implementation. These are all in 7. They need to be as responsibilities, not as individual people or individual leaders, but as responsibilities. They need to lie inside. Okay. And you need to assign somebody to own those responsibilities. Um, I hope that makes sense. If you guys have any comments here, do let us know. But I think this is a good framework that I found that I wanted to socialize with my audience here. Uh, at least it gives you a super set of all the skills that you require for executing digital transformation. Yeah. Okay. So Nitin says, "Wow, that's comprehensive. Chart metrics for retained organization design." Yeah, even Nitin, not just for retained organization design, but even from a partner point of view. Um, See, eventually, in the overall IT organization across own people as well as partners, these skills are required. Okay. So even when you are looking at, let's say, partner proposals, okay, or when you're looking at how the partner organization design is, you can actually take reference of this, and you can actually question, or you can engage in a dialogue where if there are any skill gaps based on the SFIA reference architecture, you can actually fill them up with the help of your partners, right? Okay. Yeah, you're right. More sevens mean retain. Yes, more sevens means you need to have those skills inside your own organization, because it the buck stops there. The buck stops at 7. Okay. I think one important point here that I want everyone to realize or to understand is that uh, these kind of frameworks also help you engage in a good mature discussion with your HR people, with your own leadership, your bosses, your CEO, your MD, and maybe your practice heads and all. That this is not me who's saying that I need the guy, right? I mean, here is a third party resource also, which basically from where I am seeking my inputs. Okay, and I think what I have always seen is that the moment you take a discussion out of a that tutu meme, you versus me, and you basically both of you follow something which is agreeable, which may be outside your even your organization or your uh, maybe it can be a third party expertise, it can be a benchmarking report, it can be anything in the public domain. It always helps to actually have that particular view, help you reconcile with your internal stakeholders. I mean, there's simple things like, for example, we are talking of the organization structure and the skills we need internally. There's another one, which can be about budgets. I mean, what kind of budgets do you need? I mean, I always used different budget benchmarking studies around budgets to basically make the point on where we are underinvested, where we are overinvested. I mean, especially for example, information security, we were underinvested and we were investing like some, I don't know, some very small percentage of our IT budget in information security. And I actually, when I did the benchmarking, uh, took it to my bosses and said, guys, we are underinvested. And I think that kind of that works as an eye opener many times, taking these third party studies to your within the organization. Okay, so guys, I hope that helps. Okay, so Nitin, what you're saying is that, I mean, organization should retain those who have caliber of skills to do type 7 type of roles. Yes, Nitin, of course. But then those guys also need to show value, right? In doing those jobs. Okay. So okay, now let's go back to our next question. Um, how do you prioritize investments in technology? Okay, so this was asked by one Praveen Kumar. Um, so this is like technology prioritization principles. So this is interesting again. Um, uh, I mean, let me take my Tata Motors example again. Uh, so our team used to say no to a lot of stuff. Like giving up right when the demand came for projects. And I said, guys, you know what? That doesn't leave us anywhere in terms of telling us what is the as is the state, unfiltered as is the state. So we started collating all the demands. We said, okay, so guys, just keep it coming. Okay. So have some mechanism of collating demands. The first time we did it, it was like some 400 plus project requests. Okay. And we then looked at different constraints and all. We just brought in that manufacturing constraint based planning kind of approach, and we said, okay, let's assess our capacity. So we looked at our overall capacity, not just from a people point of view, but also from like how many times in a year can you go live in your major systems, what kind of blackout windows you require, quarter ends, half year end, year end. You cannot undertake too many. Maybe in advance of those deadlines, you should not be making any major changes to your systems, unless you want to risk destabilizing them. So everything put, and then you have the technology upgrades that are going on. So you bring in everything into some sort of a planning cauldron. You can actually discuss with your manufacturing planning guys. They know how to do these constraint based planning. If you want to do a constraint based planning in IT, we actually used some of those principles, and we found that there was no way we can take a typical size project more than 60 to 70 projects in a year. Okay, it was more driven by non-manpower related constraints than the manpower related constraints. So just want to clarify that. And what I also mean is that don't ever come into this simplistic assumption that if you throw enough people you can get everything done. No, that's not happening. You have more constraints which are non-people related than which are people related in an organization. Um, so now so now we have the two ends of the funnel. At the one end of the funnel we have 60 to 70 projects. On the other end of the funnel we have 400. So it becomes like a sales pipeline. Okay, but instead of sales pipeline which automatically converts and you want to convert the maximum of it, here we want to have very controlled process. So we actually brought in a uh, uh, a framework which I have also passed on to my fellow CIOs later, and I'm just bringing it here. It is basically 5 to 6 um, uh, categories in which you assess your projects on a scale of 1 to 5. Okay, does it create new revenue stream? Okay, 5. Yes, it 5. Does it help you bring down cost or improve productivity? Yes, it improves my productivity by enabling my last mile sales force. Okay, so yes, that's like another 3 points. Okay, does it create future options? Yes, I can actually add more and more features to my mobile app. Okay, so more. Does it require new technology? Yes or no? Well, if it requires new technology, the score goes down. Okay, because adding a new technology to your architecture is always a heavy lifting experience. There is so much that you need to enable, right, from security point of view, from a partnership, contracts, and whole host of stuff, skill building. So you prioritize projects. Let's say given all the scores are same, except the technology score. Um, let's say two projects is scored 20 out of 25. uh, the project that you can deliver with existing technology will take a higher priority. As I said, all things being equal. Okay, uh, because that can give you results faster without creating additional complexity, etc. Right? And of course, security and compliance, you have to sometimes you know uh, drop other factors in favor of security and compliance. If something, let's say your SOX compliance requires you to undertake a project, you do not look at cost of productivity or revenue stream side, you simply go and do it. Okay, so this was so all project requests right at the ground level itself were scored on these criteria. Refined, people had to people had to debate on this particular framework. As I said, between the business guys and my team, there was not a tutu meme, that you versus me, but it was more like, hey guys, here is the framework, let us score your project request together on this. So that was one framework. Now the second one was interesting. We further evolved it. We found that a lot of these project requests are like, they are spur of the moment, that hey, you know what, we can do this with technology, we can do this with technology. There's not enough seriousness about um, well, now I don't want to stand in judgment on whether it is serious or not, but just like I found that things may not be that serious sometimes. So how do you get to that seriousness? How do you assess the seriousness of a project request? That's why I sort of recreated this for you guys. Okay, so he said, okay guys, here is a one pager. Okay, give me your requirement definition in one page along with these criteria. Okay, so it's a one page requirement summary. You put your objective, what are the business KPIs which are going to be impacted, what is the expected improvement in those KPIs, and which of those 5 or 6 criteria it meets in terms of improving it. And just give a summary of your requirement. It's like not too many, maybe 50-60 words. And I think this became a litmus test for seriousness, that people who were serious would actually take the effort to build a one pager for you. Okay, and people who were like talking in the spur of the moment will say, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, and then the tomorrow never comes. As James Bond says, tomorrow never comes. Okay, so we are just about at the end of the hour, and there's another question which is here, and I okay, so that's the only question. So let's maybe spend a few more minutes and take this, which is, what is the best project management style, Agile or Waterfall? This was asked by Prabhakar. So, um, I mean, I ran, a complete project portfolio based on the Waterfall method back in my days. And I would, at that point, I would agree that, Agile had its own merits. And then I came to GE and we used to follow Agile. And now I run a startup, which is Flock and Go, and we use Agile. And I see that, the right answer is somewhere in between. The right answer is not Agile or not Waterfall, but the right answer is somewhere in between. So here is what happened when we were using Agile in our startup. Um, we found that, like, so what Agile does, if you use only Agile, okay, what it does is that it your you're blinkered to look at only the next 15 days, which is the next sprint, right? And your long-term planning, many of the features of when you're building a product, there are some things which will take beyond a sprint. Okay, there are ideas that come which are not relevant in the immediate sprint or the next sprint, because those sprints are already full of their backlogs. Okay, so you need to have a little bit of a longer roadmap. Okay, and you need to parse things as they come across these different across a much longer time frame than what a sprint allows. Okay, so we actually ended up creating hybrid mechanisms where, let's say you have a longer term roadmap, you have multiple sprints on Excel, and you basically, like, wherever um, you have a new requirement coming, but it's not in the priority of the immediate two sprints, you at least park it somewhere. Okay, that story number, etc., you park it somewhere, and then once in a while you keep looking at those all those backlog stories which are way, just in terms of, like, bringing them forward, or pushing them further back. So and actually, when we were revamping our complete Flock and Go product, we actually used the waterfall kind of method, the time tracking kind of method, based on any major piece of work on an Excel. Of course, the sprints were going on, but we were also working on an Excel. So the right model is, like, what works for you. It will have to be a mix of the two. Innovation projects, however, there will be a bit of a flavor to it, contextual flavor to it. So if it is a completely innovation project where you are not, where you cannot see beyond a couple of sprints, I think just go with Agile. If it is, a fundamental, let's say, process transformation project, you are picking up, let's say, a supply chain, or CRM, or let us say an ERP based project, you need to have a mix of the two. You cannot be losing sight of your larger project plan and go live dates when you are following the sprint method, okay, when you are following the Agile method. There are many things in Agile which, just want to, like, make another point. There are many processes in Agile, or many rituals in Agile, which typically people don't follow. Like, for example, retrospective is there. And there are many of those rituals. So people typically end up restricting themselves to this 15-day sprints. That's not enough. There are other rituals, there are reports. Uh, the whole the whole Agile method, one of the principles is learning, continuous learning. And one of the pitfalls that I have seen, it is not the problem of the Agile, it is how you follow it, is that the learning part gets missed. The execution parts is followed, the learning part gets missed. Okay, so don't make that mistake. And on that note, I think we had a great session, let me bring in something at the end from Karthik. So Karthik is commenting on the SFIA chart. So Karthik, so from this SFIA chart, I see that retention of strategy, architecture, change, transformation, relationship, engagement are captive internal processes that are not so delegatable, while outsourced ones are development, implementation, delivery, operation, people skills. Thank you for this real informative eye opener, Jagdish. Karthik, only thing I would say when we are saying captive internal processes, I would say look at it as a larger picture. It's not necessarily the skills you require within IT, but the skills you require within organization. Okay. So when you are undertaking, let us say, a business transformation project, the program management has to be internal. But your program manager may come from the respective business function where you're driving the transformation, not necessarily from IT. So whatever is in 7, you own it within the organization. It may be in IT or it may be in any of the business functions. So just to clarify that. Okay. Okay, guys. So on that note, yeah. So let me just quickly now recap our session. Thanks, Nitin, Karthik, Satya, for that amazing set of questions and interactions. Um, it makes the whole session so much more. The time just flies. I always think that these AMA sessions I can get them done in like 45 minutes, but we still cross the hour. So we let me quickly summarize the session. We discussed about the organization model for successful IT delivery. We basically said that it depends on your organization context and at what point of maturity you are in the organization. But then if you set, let's say, a goal, a North Star, then the key trends which are, which you can work towards in that North Star is like, product outcome centric teams, IT becoming a platform provider and owner of technology while the business owns outcomes. The experts in sometimes when the technology area is very close to the business outcomes, like for example, data and insights, uh, these experts can reside within the business. Um, you know, as you go into these very, very business embedded teams, which are outcome oriented, you also need to drive collaboration. Okay. Either by bringing them physically together in an innovation hub or by creating online forums and all of that. And I think a very, very important addition to that discussion was the culture. The leaders have to build that culture. A lot of your efforts or intents to drive transformation will fall apart if you don't have the culture of collaboration. Okay. Especially if you are moving towards those business embedded teams. Okay. Then we had a logical extension of that particular discussion, which went into balancing flexible manpower versus a specialist. So we discussed about the principle of bringing accountability inside and then designing your organization around it. um, that principle, the practical application of that principle is that you cannot blame anything on a partner or anybody outside. The blame has to be, if the blame has to be inside, that means the accountability of a particular process or anything has to be inside, and then you build your organization around it. And then we brought in the SFIA, framework, the Skills for Information Age framework. I've been following it since I learned it from JLR. They were transforming their IT organization, and they were referencing it, and I have found it very useful. So I shared it with you. My team will share it, the PDF in one of the comments. Vinay, please take a note of it. We have to share the PDF of SFIA as well as the links, right? Uh, and then we talked about the technology prioritization principles, which is not to say no to anybody right in the beginning. Bring in all the requirements, build a funnel, and use a certain set of mechanisms to drive seriousness into the process of project demands. as well as a very neutral um, manner of qualifying the project demand, the way you qualify your sales pipeline and all of that. It's a the whole thing actually motivated by the sales pipeline process. um, so uh, you to bring the seriousness into a project request, drive a one pager requirement, and then to assess those or to qualify those from a prioritization point of view, bring in that six-step prioritization around cost, revenue, productivity, compliance, creating future options, yeah. So creating future options. So those are the five or six of them. We'll again post that. Okay. Uh, and then you get an Excel, which is all your project demands with, like, the scores, the sum total of scores, which is sorted with the maximum points on top, and that's how you drive prioritization. Share it with your business guys, let them tweak it a little bit, but end of the day, it will generate an outcome which doesn't create any heartburns for everybody. Right? And finally, we covered the topic of the ideal project management style, Agile or Waterfall. The right answer is none. The right answer is something in between. Again, depending on your need, if you're driving a large transformation project, lean a little bit towards the Waterfall side. If you're driving a completely innovation project, lean towards the Agile side. Okay. So, on that note, thank you everyone for attending and engaging. And I know a lot of you watch the recording over the weekend and beyond that. We do see the views going into thousands in within a week, and that's something which which allows us not to look at the live viewers per se when doing these sessions, because a lot of you actually benefit from these sessions even post even post the session itself, within a few weeks of this. Thank you guys. I think we are kind of done with these two AMA sessions in terms of clearing our backlog. We have a good slate of guests for the next at least 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm looking forward to having more of technology leaders on board in Clarity Chat. And we'll see you on 14th of September. Ganpati Bappa is going to be coming, start coming from next week onwards. So in advance, happy Ganesh Chaturthi. We'll be meeting afterwards. And see you guys till the next one. Bye bye. Have a great weekend.